Fountains Abbey is a stunning Grade 1 listed Cistercian monastery near Ripon in North Yorkshire, England, owned by the National Trust. The Abbey and Abbey complex sits in a valley next to the River Skell, a tributary of the Ure, just a few miles outside of Ripon. 13 monks were expelled from St Mary's Abbey, York, in 1132 and were granted lands to establish a monastery in the valley of the River Skell. The enclosed valley had all the natural features needed for the creation of a monastery, providing shelter from the weather, stone and timber for building, and a supply of running water. The 6 springs that watered the site are supposed to have inspired the monks to give it the name of Fountains. Early buildings were soon replaced with monumental stone-built architecture, with Fountains becoming the second Cistercian house in northern England, after Rievaulx Abbey. The main parts of the abbey that we see today were constructed between 1170 and 1247 in the Romanesque and early English Gothic style, but with significant additions in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. The abbey church and many of the claustral building ruins survive, including the chapter house, refectory, and lay brothers' dormitory. One of the more unusual aspects of the abbey, which moves away from the traditional cruciform-shaped layout of most abbeys, is the rear of the abbey, the chapel of 9 altars. This is essentially a second set of transepts, widening the traditional area of the high altar to provide an additional chapel space with 9 altars. For those eagle-eyed viewers, you will note that no tower is shown early in the video. The tower was one of the later additions to the abbey, so that will be restored towards the end of the video. Following foundation of the abbey, over the next 4 centuries, it became one of the wealthiest monasteries in England, thanks to its large and diverse landholdings. The lay brothers were integral members of monastic life and were engaged in the manual work around the abbey. Whilst they had separate living accommodation, they observed the same rules as the Cistercian monks: poverty, obedience, and chastity. However, all was not plain sailing for the abbey, with a run of disasters that befell the community in the 13th and 14th centuries. In 1294, the abbey was criticised for its dire material and physical state, and was in significant debt. Heavy taxation became a problem for Fountains, as did frequent raids by the Scots, with the culmination of these misfortunes being the Black Death in 1348. The chapter house, next to the main abbey transept, was a building in which meetings were held, and often the whole community met there daily for readings and to hear the abbot or senior monks talk. Of course, Fountains Abbey was an important pilgrimage destination, so guest quarters were built for weary travellers. Towards the back of the abbey lies the abbot's residence, and behind that was the important monks' infirmary, the closest equivalent to a hospital today, which comprised a large hall, chambers, chapel, and a kitchen. The sick and infirm from the local community would be cared for here. Fountains regained some stability and prosperity under successive abbots from the mid-15th century, who undertook some much-needed restoration of the fabric of the abbey, including notable work on the church. Debts were significantly reduced during this period. In the early 16th century, Abbot Hubie undertook an expansion and building program, which included an extension to the infirmary and a new tower attached to the north transept, Hubie's Tower as it became known. However, despite this newly found prosperity, shortly thereafter, the abbey was surrendered in 1539, when its seizure was ordered under Henry VIII at the dissolution of the monasteries. Once again, we hope that you have enjoyed this interpretive video presentation. Check out our other work on the Facebook channel and be sure to like, comment, and follow if you appreciate our work.